Hey everyone, it's Fiona Edgar, astrologer here, and I thought that I would make a quick video about the upcoming Mercury retrograde. So this retrograde starts tomorrow, and it's not the worst one that I've seen. I want to start with that because I know that everyone dreads Mercury retrograde periods, myself included. It is never a particularly good time, although some good things may happen. But I have Mercury on my ascendant, it is my chart ruler, and it is also conjunct Mars. So I signed up to go through hell every Mercury retrograde. No, I'm just kidding. But it has become a bit of a buzz term. I think even Tesco's, a supermarket chain here in the UK, they were talking about Mercury retrograde. A lot of people will talk about it, but few really know what it is. So first of all, it happens 3 times a year. It will do so for the rest of our lives, so we better get used to it, right? So when a planet is retrograde, it is really a time of review, okay? So you didn't get something right the first time, the universe is giving you a little chance to kind of make things right, make it work a little bit better. So Mercury, of course, is the planet of communication, our thought processes, information. How do you think? How do you learn? Do you learn quickly? Or do you learn slowly? Those are all Mercury. Those are all things that Mercury rules. Okay, so when it is retrograde, it appears to be moving backwards through the sky. It is not moving backwards. It's an optical illusion. But the energetic effects of a Mercury retrograde are very real for us. So things get a little bit wacky. Technology can fail. Your car may break down. You have all kinds of issues in terms of stuff that Mercury is connected with and that Mercury rules. Okay, so this Mercury retrograde is in Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus, the goddess of love. And of course, that means that our partnerships are going to be affected. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, okay? It can be that you need to do a little bit of work on a relationship. Maybe there's some loose ends that need tied up. Maybe you have plans, but they need a little bit of a review, okay? So the other thing I want to mention is that when it comes to transits, so your own personal transits, and the transits that are happening in the sky. When an astrologer talks about transits, it's of course the planets always being in motion. They're moving into different signs. They're making aspects to each other, which are relationships. They're either getting along or they're not getting along or somewhere in between, right? So this transit is it starts tomorrow and it ends on October the 18th. But then we have the shadow period, right? So the shadow period is when it's left it's left the retrograde zone, okay? But it's still retracing its steps a little bit. So sometimes the shadow period can be worse than the actual retrograde itself. I've heard people complain about that. Personally, I only really feel it for maybe 4 or 5 days. After that, okay? But officially, we're not going to be out of the shadow period until November 2nd. So what can you expect from this overall? You can expect to maybe have some issues that you have to deal with in terms of relationships, in terms of fairness, critical thinking. This is something that Libra does not get enough credit for. Librans are logical. Libra is the sign of pure intellect and pure logic, right? So the reason why Librans have this reputation for being a little bit indecisive is because quite often what they hear from other people or what they get from other sources of information is at conflict with what they're thinking about in their own mind, right? And can you blame them? Because most people are wrong. Most news outlets are wrong, wherever you get your information from. So I have a Libra stellium in my birth chart. It means that I have 3 planets in Libra, and I hate unsolicited advice. It is literally my worst thing, right? Don't advise me. Don't tell me what to do. I don't take orders, and I don't. I mean, it's not because I'm being argumentative, or it's just that I know that people will offer advice and they don't put any thought into it. It's like third-hand information or stuff that they read somewhere, and quite often it is wrong, and it's annoying having to have that conversation, okay? So that's why Libra gets this this reputation for being indecisive. Now, they can be argumentative, really argumentative, but they do it in a way, they do it with a nice smile on their faces. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Libra, but they will argue with you a lot, but it won't be in like a shouty kind of confrontational way. It will be done in a very cold, logical, matter-of-fact way. So you may have some issues connected with that to deal with. People disagreeing with you, you're at odds with other people because of the information that you're hearing or getting from other sources. So it's always a good idea to trust yourself first and foremost. Trust your instincts, trust your intuition, trust your own intellect, right? And don't rely on what other people tell you. I mean, just for an example, like, I don't even click on the news anymore. I don't watch it, I don't read it, but you know, sometimes you kind of stumble upon an article, and it was the Guardian, notorious leftist rag here in the UK, and the headline was like, studies saying that meat, dairy products and animal fat were flawed. So the Guardian are now saying that it's okay to eat these, whereas for like the last 10-15 years they've been telling everyone to go vegan. Like, it's just ridiculous. At this point, if you put any faith in studies, I don't know what to tell you, because they're all funded by the people that have an invested interest in the outcome. So call me skeptical, whatever, I don't care. That served me well throughout the course of my life, is not listening to anyone but myself. So let's get back to the retrograde, but that is kind of relevant because we're in a war of information at the moment, and of course Mercury is going to be connected to information. This Mercury retrograde is really not that bad because it has some really good aspects in it. So the first aspect that I'll talk about is that Mercury is making a nice trine to Jupiter. So what is Jupiter? It's optimism, faith, opportunities coming your way. It's your spiritual beliefs, your beliefs in general. So as the retrograde starts with the trine between these two, open your minds, okay? Don't be so close-minded. Keep your mind open for other ideas that might come to you, spiritual ideas. You know, if you do spiritual work, a lot of the time you will get this kind of gnosis coming to you. So take a different path than what you've done before. That's what this is saying. Jupiter is also connected with luck and overall feelings of well-being. So this is a really supportive aspect to have in this Mercury retrograde, which is why I don't think it's going to be as bad. Now, Mercury retrograde does have a chart, okay? So I'm looking at the chart, and this will affect the overall energy of it. So the other thing is that the Sun will be conjunct Mars, okay? And what that means is that we may be feeling a bit impatient. There's a goal that you want to get to. There's something that you want to reach, a destination that you want to get to, but there may be a bit of a delay because of the retrograde, right? So with Mars, you're like, I want this now. I can't wait. I want to go. And it could be connected with relationships because the Sun and Mars, as well as Mercury, are all in Libra. So we have a Libra stellium during this retrograde. So what can you do? Try and be patient. Try and breathe and just, you know, trust in the gods or whatever, and just put your faith in them. That's also a Jupiterian connection for you. It's trusting that we all have a destination. I firmly believe in fate, destiny. In my system, we call it the Norns, the three goddesses of fate. I believe in that, right? Because I've seen it. I've seen it happen. So there is a plan that's been set out for you. No amount of worrying, being impatient, or any of those things is going to make it happen any sooner than it is supposed to, right? If you're super impatient, look at your chart, look at your transits. If you can't do that yourself, you don't have a clue, then book a reading with me and I will go over it with you for the next year or two, you can also book a written reading from me, and I will write your transits for the next year so that you can have them to refer to when you want to know when something is coming up, right? So that is a little bit of help. Astrology, it's not fortune telling, but we know when the good times are coming, we know when the bad times are coming, and everything else in between. Forewarned is forearmed, okay? So another big theme of this retrograde is that Mercury will be squaring Pluto. So we already had that once. Mercury is going retrograde. So what is it? What kind of thing can you expect? Mercury square Pluto is about some intense conversations that you're having with another person. So when a conversation is Plutonian, there's no candy coating it, right? There's nothing no frills. And I know that Mercury is in Libra, but it doesn't matter. This square to Pluto is going to make those conversations intense. You will not be satisfied with anything fluffy. You want rich, passionate, intense conversations, and you will get those. But be careful what you wish for, okay? Because Pluto can take you into the underworld. You may have conversations with another person that you will not expect to have, right? That's the Plutonian thing. There may be issues with power, right? How do you use your words? Are you forceful? Are you making others feel good when you use your words? Maybe you need to work on that a little bit. I know that I can be really quite Mars-like and Plutonian when I speak. So sometimes I realize that I'm around people that may not understand that, or they may not get that, or they may be wounded by my words. So I have to try and rein that in a little bit. And I do try my best. Okay, so expect that. You may have some arguments during this retrograde, but that's the case for all of the retrogrades. I mean, you don't grow through everything being nice all the time, everything's balanced, and everyone's happy. You don't grow in life through the easy times. It's through the conflict. It's through disagreements. It's through having bad stuff happen to you. That's how we grow. That's how you get to a better place. When you're going through a kind of spiritual transformation, it is never going to be done in an easy and pleasant way. You'll be dragged through hell and back. Death is another theme of this retrograde, I have to say, because Pluto rules death and rules transformation. Is it going to be actual deaths? Well, I don't know. I'm sure some of you, I'm sad to say, will experience that, but you may get a stronger sense of your own mortality. What do you want to leave behind when you go? Okay? Not just money. That doesn't mean anything. Of course, you need money to live, and you have to buy food and all of that, but what is the legacy that you want to leave? Our ancestors, it was really important to them that they left behind something, a story about them. Do something with your life other than just pay your bills and all of the usual things, okay? Write a book, make YouTube videos, whatever. Make sculptures. I don't know what it is, but you all have something within you that you can create beauty with and you can cause change with. That is another Libran kind of issue or theme, is beauty. What is your perception of beauty? So a lot of people I know around this retrograde are maybe going to have some issues with the way that they look or their appearances, because Libra is all about stuff that looks pretty, right? A pretty face. Maybe if you don't feel so good about yourself, you may be considering Botox or whatever. Don't do it over the retrograde because you'll regret it. It will go wrong, okay? So I'm just warning you. But the usual Mercury retrogrades rules apply. So don't get married on a Mercury retrograde under any circumstances, because it won't work out the way that you hoped, okay? Don't get back with your ex or anyone from the past. It's not going to work out. It didn't work for the first time, and you're just putting yourself into another kind of karmic lesson. Try not to start a new job during Mercury retrograde. Again, that may not last for you. Try not to sign any documents, take out any credit, move house, all of those things. Now, I do realize that for some people, you may have no other choice but to do that, but just remember that it may not be permanent. Go in with your eyes open, okay? Communicate effectively. Make sure you get it in writing. Don't take anything verbally. Also remember that during Mercury retrogrades, you may take things the wrong way, okay? So maybe, you're texting with your partner or whatever, and you leave an emoji off and you didn't put a comma in, and they take, it will cause drama. It will cause like a mountain out of a molehill. So just remember that before you react. Try to have conversations face to face, or at least over the phone or whatever. Right, so now I'm going to talk about the effects of the Mercury retrogrades for each of the signs, right? So Aries, so this is for Aries sun, Aries rising. You can, if your moon is in Aries, you may also resonate with this, right? So this Mercury retrograde is happening in your 7th house. So this is about your relationships, okay? Marriage, committed partnerships. It also is connected to your enemies. First of all, an old enemy that you know of may resurface during the retrograde. An ex may resurface. Not a good idea to go there because it didn't work the last time. Why is it going to work again? It won't. You also may have realizations about the way that you conduct yourself within relationships, okay? What can you work on? Look at yourself with honest eyes and see where you can improve upon that. Maybe you weren't going for the right people. Maybe you can make better choices. So those are all things that you need to review over the retrograde period. So Taurus, for Taurus rising, Taurus sun, Mercury retrograde is happening in your 6th house. So that is where you work. It's how you work, your daily schedule. What can you do to improve upon that? You may have some issues at work to deal with, right? So issues connected with fairness. Maybe you are working with a couple of office bitches, or you're just the odd one in the office for whatever reason, and you feel like there's a situation that it's not being fair on you, okay? Your health may also suffer during this retrograde. Now, a lot of people will have health issues during a Mercury retrograde period because Mercury is connected to health, right? So during the retrograde period, what can you do to improve your health, right? So Taurus, for you in particular, watch out for any health issues. It may just be a cold, it may just be a little bit of anxiety or insomnia. Don't sweat it. So Taurus, you may also have issues with pets, small animals like cats and dogs. Doesn't have to be a disaster, don't worry. So Gemini rising, the retrograde is happening in your 5th house. That is your house of romances, children. If you have any kids, there may be some issues to deal with. There may be a lover that comes back again from the past. You know what to do. Okay, it's also the house of creativity and your self-esteem. What can you create to make yourself feel good? Okay, so creativity is not just about the ability to draw or write. It can be music. It can be ideas that you have for a business. All of that requires some creativity. So work on your self-esteem as well, Gemini, over this retrograde. What can you do to improve that? So Cancer, this is happening in your 4th house of home, your family, your ancestry. This is a really good time for you to do any kind of ancestral work, or looking up your family tree, genealogy, DNA, whatever you choose to do. You're going to find something that may be really surprising to you. A little piece of information that leads to something bigger. You may have issues in your home. You may feel like moving. There may be a change to your home. Maybe someone else moves in. Could be a partner, since the retrograde is in Libra. Okay, so you're also being asked to establish more of a balance within your home. And I'm smiling because I'm a Cancer, and my home, I don't know, for like a week or two, my home went to shit. It was really messy, and I'm generally quite a tidy person. and it looked like hell, and I just could not be bothered doing anything about it. But I fixed it yesterday. Okay, so Leo rising, the retrograde is happening in your third house. The number one thing that this can cause for you is an issue with your car. Okay, car problems, breakdowns, flat tires, something happens to your car, then you realize you're not in warranty anymore. All of those are going to be big issues for you. So the third house is also about your siblings, arguments there, or maybe you reconnect with a sibling from your past that you became estranged from and you haven't seen them in a few years. Okay, so also communication is really going to be a big theme for you. Maybe you can't communicate because when Mercury is retrograde in your third house, there's so many things in your head that you want to say, you can't think of the words. So if you can't, then just leave it until it's over. But with that nice trine to Jupiter and the square to Pluto, you will somehow be able to form the words. Just try not to do it after you've been drinking. Virgo and Virgo rising, the Mercury retrograde is going through your second house of finances, personal resources, your money, also anything that you value, your own personal morals and values, and possessions that you own. So be careful about financial issues. Take precautions for that. Don't blow a large amount of money on an antique chair or something that you're not going to use, because you will regret it within a few weeks when Mercury goes direct again. So maybe you need to think about your values and your morals. Review those for whatever reason. Maybe it's your morals within relationships, okay, because Mercury is in Libra, so have a think about those so that you can improve upon that. Libra, sad to say, but this is your retrograde. So Mercury is going retrograde in your first house. That is the house of the self. It is your physical body. It is your identity. Please do not make loads of changes or dramatic changes to your physical appearance, okay? Because Mercury is retrograde, you're not seeing it properly. Don't go and get a nose job or dye your hair pink, right? Just wait until it's over, because that feeling will probably pass. But who is Libra? What is your identity? What do you have to offer to the world? What is your role? Kind of soul searching stuff for you this retrograde. So don't be surprised then if you feel messed up. Librans don't like that. They like everything to be in order. They like their balance. They like their peace. But you're not going to get a lot of that over this retrograde, because your very identity is going to change to some degree. So Scorpio, Mercury is going retrograde in your 12th house, right? Sounds scary because the 12th house is known as the trash can of the zodiac, but I like it. I'm a 12th houser. I'm at home there. So the 12th house can be, when Mercury is retrograde there, it is something coming to light, some part of your subconscious. It can be about secret enemies, people that you thought were your friends. You find something out, they betrayed you. It doesn't have to be as bad as that. Some people will go through that. The 12th house is also about hospitals. Some of you may be, spending time in hospital or recovering from something like that. The 12th house is also connected to institutions, prisons. So you may have dealings with any of those places. It doesn't mean that you yourself are going to be in there. It could be a relative or a close friend. But overall, this is about taking some downtime for you, some rest, okay? Maybe some spiritual work too. Sagittarius, the retrograde is happening in your 11th house of your friends, any groups that you belong to, associations, organizations. It's also about your hopes and your dreams and your wishes for the future. So an old friend comes to stay, you get back in contact with someone that you previously lost contact with a very long time ago. So communities, maybe you join a community, you feel like they're your old friends and you know them from some other lifetime. You will also be reevaluating your dreams for the future. Okay, so what do you really want to happen in your life 10 years from now? things are going to be, the hamster is going to be running on the wheel. You're going to be having really good ideas come to you. So think about them, but don't act on them until the retrograde is over. Capricorn, so this Mercury retrograde is happening in your 10th house of your career, your reputation, your public reputation, your identity within society, how the public see you. It's also got to do with your father. You may have news about your father, maybe a small problem or issue to deal with. It's also about, within your career, knowing your worth. Are you happy where you are? Could you get a pay rise somewhere else? Think big. Remember that Jupiter is helping you on this one. So don't be afraid to go for a new job that you think that you have no chance for, because you may get lucky. Right, so lastly, we have Aquarius. Aquarius, this Mercury retrograde is happening in your 9th house. So this is all about your beliefs. It's about religion, spirituality, travel. So you may have a belief that is challenged, something that you believe for many, many years. Aquarius is a fixed sign, so you guys can be quite rigid and very fixed within your ideas and your beliefs. Something may come along to challenge that. Maybe you find a new spiritual path. Maybe you switch political sides or do something that you thought that you would never do. So it's also got to do with travel. If you have any travel plans, maybe they're going to go a bit up in the air because of the way that things are right now in the world. And you may have a connection with foreigners or friends that come from foreign places, or a lover from a foreign place. So just go with the flow because Jupiter is on your side. Don't be afraid to explore new paths because they lead to new beginnings. Okay, so that's my analysis of Mercury retrograde, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Leave me a comment. So remember, don't panic. Just go with the flow. If any changes happen, just go with them. There may be delays. Stuff may not work out as planned, but it will come. So you have to be patient. Don't get back with your ex. Don't start a new job or sign any contracts. And be careful about your finances, okay? Alright guys, if you would like a private reading, go to my website, fionaedgar.com. You can also become a student of mine. If you sign up for my School of Astrology, I'm taking on new students next year. Okay, bye for now.